Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week I have Mathieu back again. Mathieu, tell us a bit about yourself. We'll go into your story a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit about systems and growth.
So I'm actually excited because we were having a talk a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and we're like, oh, we should make a podcast episode out of this one. But essentially, my name is Mathieu Laquerre. I'm the founder of Mata Partners and Mata Capital. We essentially invest in U.S. real estate, specifically in Philadelphia. We have an investment fund also that takes on registered funds and invests that directly in new development projects in Philadelphia. So we've been doing this for around 6 years, and we're looking to grow our portfolio to $40 to $50 million in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. So in case someone didn't check out your other episode, I should have looked up what the number was, but quick recap, and then we'll get into it. Like how'd you get there? Just a quick, 30-second, 60-second story.
So my story in real estate, I became an accidental landlord here in Canada. And I realized that I had a business, but I didn't know how to grow my business. Brought on a mentor to kind of help me scale my vision. And he told me I should start looking at the US real estate. It wasn't in my pipeline. And that was 6 years ago. And it was kind of hard to make numbers work in my own backyard here in Ottawa. And now I'm mainly focused in US real estate. Just the advantages of investing across the border are just a lot better, I find, and the returns and the risk are a little bit lower in the US if you do it right.
Makes sense. And yeah, I totally agree with that.
So I think the best thing to talk about today is, how do you go from like one or two properties, I think, to growing your team and the conversation we're having was essentially, and I think you're in the same position as me is like, yeah, you're still involved on the back end of the deals, but now, we're building a machine and we got to start focusing on system, on a team. And there's a lot of things as when we first started in real estate that, we don't do a good job at it until it's too late. You realize, oh, I should have had a CRM. I should have put notes about this investor. I should have done this. And it's when you're growing as a person, you don't know these things because you don't realize how the power of real estate, what the things they can do for you in your life when you first start in this business. And I think, when we're discussing it, there's so much free tools that investors can have to kind of create a CRM. Like we use HubSpot. So 99% of the stuff when you're starting out on HubSpot, you don't even have to pay for a subscription. You get it for free. You're putting out emails or mass emails with HubSpot. Yeah, you might have their water stamp that says free HubSpot service, but at the end of the day, people aren't really noticing that. They're just noticing the content, the value that you bring to people. Every time somebody goes on my website or I send out an email, it automatically tracks what I do. So if I forgot to register it in my CRM, it's doing it automatically for me. And every week with my virtual assistant, we just go back in and see what's been put in properly, what's been not put in properly, so we can put notes on our investors or potential people that we're communicating with, like their birthdays, what they like to eat and stuff like that. There's just little things. If you have to go out for lunch, you kind of know their dietary restrictions and stuff like that. These are little things that, the details make a real big issue. Actually, the details make a big impact in our business,
Hey, Matt, let's go back a little bit because I know what a CRM is. Maybe some people don't.
So at the end of the day, CRM is just tracking everything that you're doing. Like I track, like I call them my suppliers. So people that I do business or that bring value to me, I track them in a separate way in my CRM because you don't want to kind of mix that business relationship with the deals you're doing. I also measure my clients too in my CRM. So I'll give you an example. So I have around a 7-step process, for our funnel. When it comes to real estate, it's not an overnight process. It takes time with people. Some people sign up right away when they want to invest with you. Some people, they come back to you in 3 months, 5 months, 7 months. But I like to keep track of the conversation I had, what was said, just because a lot of things changes in real estate, and especially some of the deal structures. Some investors I've spoken to, originally before I put everything on paper, I said, well, this is how I'm going to set up the deal for you. When they come back 3-4 months later, maybe you're setting up your deals in a different way. So you kind of got to respect your word, especially in real estate. Your word means a lot, and you got to follow through what you say. So I keep track of pretty much all my conversations when I've called the person, if I texted them, if I did a phone call. I just try to track that metric too, because everybody's different. And I'm sure you know about it too, Glenn, is that, some people can be ready in their own mind in a different way, or people say, oh, I'm ready to onboard with you. But when it comes to moving money, that's the hard part. Sometimes it's overnight. Sometimes it can take 2 months. Sometimes it takes 3 months. There's no metric to really measure that in real estate. And the one thing that I've realized is that no matter if you have a deal or no deal, you're always have to be in capital raising mode, just because when you have the deal, you want to be able to pull that trigger and have the money available. Yep. So you're always kind of flowing, through your capital raise exercises with your potential clients or investors. And that's one thing. That's why we created our investment fund, because we have so many deals that we don't have an issue with the deal flow, but some people just want to have their high return on their registered funds. Some people want to have a return on their money plus some equity plus a profit sharing. So there's different structures that we got to account for.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So you're using, because we're talking about systems, so you're using some software to keep track of your lead generation and and I'm guessing you're also in the CRM, you keep track of properties and that side as well.
I do that outside my CRM just because I find it's a little bit easier to track. So my CRM, I'm literally just using it to raise capital. I'm not mixing. I'm not mixing properties or anything like that. Just I find it's easier like that. I'm sure there's other systems out there that you can kind of mix your CRM and your properties, but they're not as powerful as HubSpot. Like, give you an example. Sometimes I'll share different links with people through my emails. You can track your click rate. You can track who's opening that. So it makes a big difference in the day-to-day business, I find. I forget if you're using one or not.
I don't use like a CRM like that. I have like, MailChimp and stuff, which keeps tracks of a lot of your stuff when you're sending it around. And for my properties, the way I do it is I have make like these little sheets of paperwork. I won't I wave that quick so people didn't see what was written on it. But I keep all these, and then I have walls of cork boards, and I have like this makeshift CRM, because I did do the online thing, and the problem I had was I would forget about things unless I saw them, unless they were in my face. So everything that was hot and on the go, like renovations and stuff, I had a board for that and a board. Like I just but I like the sheets on the wall for the quick points, the address and what's going on through renovations, keep adding notes to it, just so that if someone calls me, I can just look at the wall and go, okay, this is where we're at.
I'm the same way with our properties when we're doing development work. I just have all my addresses. I kind of put the dates on my board when we're supposed to hit the milestones, because sometimes you get pulled one direction and you don't have time to pull up your sheets on your computer. So I have it as a daily reminder. But I think it's all about getting in the right habit too, because look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had an intern last year that helped me out a bit, and he's like, oh, you should start tracking your stuff. I'm like, oh, I hate these CRM things. He's like, let's just do it. So I committed to it, and I'm like, wow, you don't realize how big your database is if you're not tracking it properly. And and then sometimes I'll put tags in it, I'll forget the name of an investor or what, but I'll just put in parts of my conversation and I can pull it up. Oh, that's right, it was John that I was speaking to about this. I think I have an opportunity for him. But I think I think the best thing to do is always try to organize your information. As little as you think work it takes a bit of work, but it makes a big difference. Like, if I meet somebody at a networking event or a virtual event, I'll put them in. I met them on this date. It was this event. So when I touch base, at least I have a point of connection, something to do to have a conversation with. Another thing too that I never saw the value of it too is bringing in a virtual assistant. So a lot of things that we take for granted, sometimes the repetitive stuff, they're like, oh, we like doing it because it's super easy to do. But I'm like, if you start hiring somebody, $5, $10 US an hour overseas to start doing your repetitive stuff, and that gives you more time. So what's your time really worth? And I've just implemented somebody that's doing a lot of work for us in the last 3 weeks, and I've seen myself less stressed. I've seen stuff getting done quicker than if it was me just trying to manage everything, to be a generalist in my business, and especially the repetitive stuff. We always forget that that's sometimes the most time consuming, tedious stuff that you can just have somebody else do it for cheaper than you. My time's worth X amount of money an hour. And if it's cost me $10 an hour to get it done, and I'm making $50 to $100 an hour, it's totally worth the investment on that. So I have somebody working around 25 hours a week for us. And then I'm gradually going to start bringing her on full time. It's just, I'm giving her these tasks because I'm so busy. I don't have that much time to train the person. So I'm like, okay, this is what I need done. Do the research. Tell me how you're going to do it, and go from there. And it's been a big accelerator for our business. That's for sure.
So what do you have your VA do?
So I get her to manage my email box. I've got so many emails coming in that sometimes the odd one goes in the wrong box. I miss it. A good example is around 2 weeks ago, this email came in. I'm like, I totally forgot about it. And I'm like, oh, I got to reply to that person. She sent out the email. Okay, here's my calendar link, book a call, and let's hop on a call. To me, that's value right there, because, that's a sale that slipped through the system that, sometimes we forget, we get busy. I'll get back to that person. So she's just, double checking my work to make sure that I'm not leaving anything fall through the cracks. Also my social media content too. So I kind of give her a guideline. This is what I want. I'll build a whole bunch of templates for them, and then she'll finalize everything, give it for my approval, have the artwork ready. So to me, that's value right there. Something like, even though I maybe spend between 5 and 6 hours a month just to kind of plan what I'm going to do for 6 to 8 weeks in social media. So I try to do a post every other day. And then the odd day I can post about my projects or anything like that, but I just make sure that everything is ready to go. And if I have to tweak it, we just move things around. Another thing too, that, a tool as a real estate investor that, especially with COVID, especially in Canada, is that, we're not allowed to really gather, have big, meetups or stuff like that. So I've found that LinkedIn is such a powerful tool of connecting with people of all walks of life. And the analytics behind LinkedIn are way better than Facebook. And also your outreach on LinkedIn is all people that want to do business. They're looking for something. So I have my subscription with LinkedIn. I use the Sales Navigator feature. So if people don't know what that is, I think, I forget what it is, that are $69 US or $89 Canadian. I forget right now. But the beauty about something like that, if you're trying to connect with a person in a business, and you're not too sure who to connect with, you can look up the company, you can get the president, CEO, and on the Sales Navigator, you can get sometimes their cell phone number, their email address. But I try never to go to that route. I'll just try to send them a message through LinkedIn and just have a conversation on LinkedIn and take it from LinkedIn to the real world, to a Zoom call. But again, my VA again will go through all my LinkedIn conversations, gather all the information, and put it in my funnel, so I don't forget anything too. So in LinkedIn, I know if people are familiar with it, but LinkedIn's changed quite a bit in the last year. Originally, we were allowed to do 100 connections a day on LinkedIn. Now it's gone down to 20 connections a day. So, a lot of people were getting spammed and so forth. And also LinkedIn had some people were using some bots on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's banned the majority of bots to do the outreach. So I don't use bots. I just do a genuine connection, because people can really tell if it's a genuine connection or a bot. Yep. But the one thing I tell people is that don't be scared to reaching out to people on LinkedIn. You'd be surprised of how receptive people are to have a conversation. And especially the word real estate is a huge connector. A lot of these busy professionals that we go after, they sometimes like, oh, I don't have time to do it, or I really want to get into real estate. But if you start that conversation about real estate with them, they're like, let me take 15 minutes, let me take half an hour, let me see where this conversation's going. And I find that, once again, LinkedIn is a great icebreaker, especially if you're putting out educational content and you're adding value to people. I think it's worth it,
No, it's completely true. And I've even had people reach out to me, and they're like, look at all the content you put out, because you connected with someone who's at a different level than yourself. And then they just notice, holy crap, this guy's got another one this week and another one, and you're doing this and doing that, and they'll reach out. And it's a good way to connect, to find whatever you're looking for. Professionals, lenders, anybody. Yeah.
And look, we just started an investment fund. Are we a perfect company? 100%. We're not a perfect company, but I've been talking and having conversations with people that have been managing funds for 5, 10, 20 years. And, they don't see us as competition. They just, these are guys that love to share their ideas. They love to share how they scale their business. And you learn so much from these conversations, even if they're not going to invest with me. I've learned something, but also I try to add value to them also. So it's not a take relationship. It's also, you can try to give value to other people. And I think that's the key to connecting with people and using tools like LinkedIn is, we sometimes in the real estate world, we're always about me, myself, and I, and my deal, and we don't see the big picture. And I think we've all gone through it. We think we have the best deal there is sometimes when we first start in the business, but we forget that we're here to solve a problem. You got a guy that's making 4 or 5% on their money. How can we double them making double digits returns or so forth? And we sometimes forget to sell the story. We just sell the deal. And if you sell the story, that's the best way of I find connecting with people is you sell the story, how you're going to get there. And then, okay, send me your deal, I'll fund your next deal. That's, I think, something that we forget also as an investor.
Yep. No, you mentioned a great thing there is the give and take. And honestly, when you put yourself out there, you start getting a lot of people looking to take. And the people that just even give a little bit, I'm open the doors to them. It's because it's such a rare thing but it's a great tool. To backtrack a little bit, we were talking about VAs and stuff. First of all, when do you switch to a VA? Do you have to have a certain amount of income, or when did you make the move? Or are you just like, I'm going to do this so that I can do more? Or where I hear it both ways. What would you recommend?
So we have two VAs. I have two VAs. So one of them contacted me through Facebook, I believe last October. And I'm like, I don't need a VA. And I'm a sales guy. And she kept being pushy. I can do this, I can do that. I'm like, well, I can't guarantee you X amount of hours. It'll be piecework and go from there. So I started giving her a bit of work. So she would do my artwork and so forth for my posts and stuff like that. I'm like, I had an app before that I was doing it myself, and I was always struggling to make them look pretty and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, there we go. I'm like, I got 5-6 artwork posts for $5 an hour, or I think it's, I'm paying her, she's $6 or $7 US an hour. I'm like, oh, I see the value. I didn't have to stress about it for a couple hours because I'm not a creative guy whatsoever. I have a vision, but I'm not good at putting things together. So she kind of reached out to me, and, I was hired. She was doing me 15 hours, 20 hours a month of work. And then I realized that her skill set wasn't exactly what I needed. And I did a lot of research in the last couple of months, how to hire a proper VA. In the past, I've used like Upworks and Fiverr to get some small tasks done, but I realized that it's not the greatest platform. So there's a couple kind of websites that you put your criteria. There's a little fee, and you put out your outline, what you're looking for. But the one trick that I learned to hire a VA is that everybody does a copy and paste when you post a job. So you want to make sure that they read the ad. So a thing that I've kind of put into like looking for a VA was, if you really want this job, change the subject of the email, say, I want this job. And then I made them do a small task. I go, here's my task. Here's a small task if you really want the job. So I make sure it's a task that takes 15 or 20 minutes for them to do. Not that I'm trying to get free work out of it. It's just to show that they're very, very hungry for the work, because sometimes, VAs, once they get bored of you, they kind of let your business shut down. So you got to make sure that they really want to work. So, like my VA, I've got them on a performance basis too. So her performance, she can make just as much money on the performance aspect of things than her hourly rate. So like that, I know that she's not going anywhere. I'm paying more than the average wage, just to make sure that my business is not going to be shut down because of them. Because I'm starting to realize I'm really, really relying on my new VA in the last 3 months. And then, another thing too, I'm getting her to do is I have a process book that I started building in the last 6 months. So every time she's figured out a task, how to do things, so she's writing down the processes in that book. So if tomorrow I get hit by a bus, my partners know how to take over, or even we need to bring in another VA. Well, everything's outlined, and then
That's
it's a little bit easier. And to be honest with you, I think the process book is one of the things that I never saw the value of it. You work at McDonald's, they have a process book. You work at any business, they have it. When you're running your own business, like, oh, I know everything in my head. But I have a few business partners that they're involved to a certain extent in the business, but they're not taking care of the everyday operations. And I'm like, hey, if I got hit tomorrow, they don't even know how to friggin' send the legal paperwork for an investment fund. They don't even know how to do half the stuff. So I think it's something that's saving me, and that it gives me that peace of mind that if something happens to me, the business can still go ahead and still be in business, right?
No, it's good. I did it a bunch of years ago myself, because I thought about it, and I was doing everything. And if something happened to me and my wife had to take over, she had no freaking idea. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, you better write down even some information, account numbers, like how to work my way through it, but I need to update it. But I did go do that process as well.
I have all the people that on the back end of our business make it run. Like, we have a few people. I'll give you guys an example. We use Olympia Trust to move money around for our business, and also to register business or investors.
Yep.
And, I have a couple of contacts, Olympia Trust. This person deals with that. That person deals with this. That person deals with that. So if you're not too sure, you don't understand the process, even though it's written down, you can call them, and how. And you
That's
can
even better. Yeah. That's great. You mentioned you have your first VA, and then you have your second VA. And the second VA, you haven't given access to everything. How do they get to the point where they get access to everything because of the confidentiality of emails and everything that's going on in your business? How do you determine when they should get access to the back end?
So what I've done is they signed the contract, and what I've done, because there is some sensitive information there, and also what I've done is I have I took a copy of their driver's license, and I took a copy of their passport. So if something ever were to happen, at least I can go to the embassy or the consulate and be like, hey, look, I got defrauded for this person in your
Hmm. Okay.
in your country, you know. And it's funny because, you know, we take a lot of things for granted. You know, we're, you know, not that they're living in third world countries, it's just their countries run different. Like my VA's got a backup generator if the power goes out. They have a lot of rolling blackouts in her town. She's got two internet providers. If one goes down, she has another one. So it's like, you know, these guys are good at what they're good at what they're doing. You got to realize that, you know, things sometimes might take a little bit longer to get done that you would want. You know, and don't forget, a lot of these people, they're 12 hours behind. So sometimes if you want some right away, some VAs are like, no, I'm just working my 12 hours. Don't ask me to do extra. And look, I made a mistake when I was interviewing. I forgot to ask that question. So I have one VA. If I send her a message, she's pretty much within 2 hours. I have an answer back. Hey, can you do this right now? It's an emergency. Just get it done. So she'll do it right away for me. But yeah, you got to really keep in mind that, you know, if you're going to hire a VA too, that sometimes they just want their regular times. And then, you know, especially in the Philippines, a VA expects a month's salary around Christmas time. That's part of their culture. So if you're paying them $1,000 a month, well, at Christmas time, they expect $1,000 bonus for Christmas. So you got to make sure that you understand the cultural difference, what they want. You know, and I made sure I outline exactly their expectations and my expectations in my contract. It's a simple contract, but at least it's black and white, and everybody knows what to expect. And it's part of life, you know. Like, it takes a little bit more time because there's a little bit of a time difference. But, and also, you know, like, I'll give you guys another example. I'm bringing on a Sony to help me build funnels for the business to kind of get more leads and so forth. And, you know, he's on a different time zone too. So, you know, like, even though I'm on Eastern time zone, you'll see me working till 10, 11 o'clock at night, just because I got to match the time zones, even with our investors. So just to make sure that you have a decent overlap between time zones too, will make a big difference in your business if you don't have the proper systems in place.
So you mentioned time zones a lot there. You said that your two VAs are in different time zones. Was that intentional, or that just happened to fall in? Because it sounds like a great strategy to have someone more on your time zone and someone more on the other side of the world time zone. So you work 24 hours then.
Well, I think it's good because the stuff that I haven't, the stuff that I know my VA can do, I don't do it. They just automatically do it. You know, sometimes I'll give you an example. Okay, I need to set 3-4 meetings with these people. I need to set meetings with 3-4 people. So I just give them that task. Doesn't matter what time they do it, it's done. You know what I mean? So it makes me concentrate my time and energy somewhere else. So if it's spending more time with my family, it's spending more time with my family, or doing something else in the business. But the thing that I've realized with real estate is that we're in the communication world, and we're all about sharing information with our investors, with, you know, and if you're not doing a good job, your business takes a big hit. And I have to say that's something that we're trying to improve enormously in our business. It's just to fully focus on communicating better with our investors, putting out better newsletters. So we're working on a lot of changes in ourselves. Like, we're going to be implementing, what can I say, quarterly meetings with all our investors, so everybody can see all our projects. So in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be launching that with everybody in our investor portal. So we're pretty excited with that.
That's awesome. So for systems, we talked about software, we talked about people. Is there anything we missed? Anything you wanted to touch on that we didn't go through?
I think, you know, people don't realize as an investor, I think, one thing that I'm constantly analyzing is your onboarding process. It never, at the beginning, it never goes smooth. Missing a signature, missing that. So I think people, when you're starting out, you have to understand the onboarding process. Like, where's your money coming from? Is it coming from a personal account? Is it coming from RSP? Is it coming from a business? What the tax implications are? And I think that's something that we're working personally in ourselves and in our business, for systems, with our sales team. Well, on the sales team, but for the back end is to have kind of a checklist. Okay, if your money's coming here, this is the setup to do. But I think people should realize that creating those systems will 10x your business, and we as investors forget about the onboarding process, I think. And I don't know if you agree with me on that, Glenn, but I think onboarding is the most important thing. That's where you win people. That's when you lose people. And I think it makes a difference in your business.
Yeah, great. Matthew, if people wanted to track you down, wanted to have a conversation, where do they find you?
So 2 things I would say: you can find me at matapartners.com, or you can track me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just look up Mata Partners or my name, Mathieu Laquerre, and I'll be happy to connect and have a conversation with you.
Cool. I'll put that stuff in the show notes too, to make it a quick link if anyone wants to get in there. Thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it once again.
My pleasure.